Over on BBC iPlayer, we have a 3-part documentary series called Hostage. And here's a clip.
John Cantley's story is the story of a very complicated, intelligent and driven man, and a very controversial figure. I didn't like John Cantley. That didn't mean that I didn't grow to like what I knew of him as I investigated him.
There's a mythology that's been built around John Cantley. It's very heart of darkness. He's gone down the river and no one knows what happened to him.
This is a fascinating series, and of course we're seeing quite a lot of war correspondence on TV at the moment, aren't we, unfortunately? And it's the story of this guy called John Cantley, who was a British photojournalist, and he was taken hostage by ISIS in Syria in 2012. Okay, so episode 1, which is the only one I've watched, just starts off telling his story, and it becomes immediately apparent that he's not universally liked. He's like a freelance photographer, but he just loves being on the front line in conflicts, and he just seems to be incredibly reckless, and he almost wants to either get shot or taken prisoner. So you can kind of tell that this isn't going to end very well. And he is captured when he goes into a house full of jihadists, but he's rescued. Okay, but undeterred, and this makes him a bit of a celebrity, and he's appearing on telly quite a lot back in the UK. But he is just desperate to go back to Syria against all advice. And you hear a lot from this guy, Mustafa Karali, who was like his fixer in Syria, who was a witness to everything that happened. Yeah, so you just, like, you can kind of see what's coming. So yeah, he and Foley do get captured by Islamic State, and people probably know that Foley was executed tragically, and people speak so warmly of him. He was an incredibly charismatic guy. You hear from other war reporters and photographers, and they're such interesting characters. You think, well, what would possess someone to put themselves in harm's way and to go to these real trouble spots? And occasionally there are people like Cantley for whom it's just like a real buzz. It's almost like a sort of addiction. So yeah, I learnt a lot about the job, and also about the political background and about the conflict. It's fascinating, and I think that episodes 2 and 3 are going to be about what happened to him when he was a prisoner, which included being used to make those propaganda videos where he's all dressed in the orange jumpsuit, and he's been given stuff to say about the West. So yeah, this is a really high quality piece of documentary making about a fascinating subject. And interestingly, none of Cantley's family wanted to be involved in the making of this, which they make clear on screen. So yeah, recommended. What did you think, Hannah?
I completely agree with you. You kind of ask the question, don't you, which is, why would you do this? But it's like a drug to them. I think that there's a real it must be an adrenaline rush, but I think the timing of this is quite pertinent given what's going on in the world at the moment, and this sort of strict policy at this time, certainly in 2012, not to negotiate with terrorists, which is a hard line, but it is a line that most governments will take, isn't it? And that sort of that brutal murder, and how do you ever get over that as a family, and knowing that those final moments were like that? And you also asked the question. I mean, I always think, even in recent times, you look at the news and someone that was sat behind a desk in London or wherever they're broadcasting from, and they're suddenly in the territory, and they're over there, and there's bombs going off all around them, and it must be that must be adrenaline rush. It must be a reason you've done it, but it's absolutely terrifying. And this gives you an insight into that a bit, doesn't it? Really, and I just find it really interesting because it's real, it's true. As you say, one of the families doesn't want to be involved in it. I would think it's just too raw, too upsetting. It's a box that needs to be shut, I'd imagine. And probably, there'll be ways that they think this could have maybe stopped or not happened. But this is just a reality of reporting in these territories when these things happen, and it's a negotiation tool for the other party. So it's really sad. There's no way there's no way of dressing it up. It's really sad. But if you want something that really sort of scratches beneath the surface, you've got it in spades with this. You really see everything as it is, and as I say, right now it feels even more pertinent.